right, welcome back to Mobile Mornings, FM Talk 1065, and I'm excited to say it's another edition of Law 251 as Brian Comer with the local personal injury law firm Tobias and Comer Law has joined us here in studio. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Dalton. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I always enjoy when you come in, or Desi. I love the whole crew over at Tobias and Comer Law. And today we're talking about something that, well, it's affected too many people to count, that's for sure. And certainly it's affected some people in much greater ways than others. And we've talked about this previously, but we're going to hit some corners of this we haven't hit before, and that's DUIs.
Right.
And for so many people out there who either a loved one or they themselves have been injured or otherwise affected by someone else who was out driving under the influence. And I'm sure right now you have, maybe not right now, but over the years you've worked plenty of, I'm sure, terrifying, terrible cases and probably just straight up unbelievable DUI cases.
Yeah, we have. And I mean, any DUI case is one too many because it's just so preventable, particularly now. I mean, when we were younger, we didn't have rideshare, Uber, and Lyft and that sort of thing. But now, I mean, you do. And there are options to get home safely. And unfortunately, I mean, you're right. It seems that the prevalence of these are even higher now. And then with cars, and particularly with people being distracted, you combine that with alcohol, and unfortunately the effects can be devastating.
And we've talked in the past, we have great times down here. We have Mardi Gras, we have football, we have all these great events, and I think a lot of the time, and what you've said in the past is, be careful. Don't drink too much. Make sure you're drinking water because you might be just over that limit and not know. It's important to be very careful. But there's cases out there, and there are people among us who are driving 3, 4, 5 times the legal limit and should absolutely be nowhere near a vehicle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've handled cases very recently where people are 3 times the legal limit, and when you're 0.24 and above, you're getting into blackout and unconscious levels. I mean, much less you have no ability to safely operate a car. And it just, it's a simple decision to make, a responsible decision to make, to say, no, and I'm not going to drive. Pass the keys to somebody else, have a DD, or take a ride share. Just, don't get behind the wheel when you're just severely impaired, because everybody thinks it won't happen to me, or but unfortunately it does, and it's so tragic and so preventable.
Yeah, one of the things I love about doing these Law 251s is you also have a bunch of information up on the website, TobiasComerLaw.com. You have news stories, you have great information that people can use every day for a number of things. And one of the things you have up there is 5 things to know about DUI accidents. And Tobias and Comer has worked plenty of these cases over the years. And of course, it goes without saying, intoxicated drivers, especially when we're talking about multiple times over the limit, their judgment falls off a cliff and they clearly didn't have great judgment to begin with. If they're driving. Vision, terrible. And so you are out there with these people, and it's up to you partially. You can't stop all these collisions, but you can make yourself as safe as possible to guard against something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, when we've had people with Alabama Law Enforcement Agency here in studio, talking with them in the field, it's all about perception and reaction. And so what alcohol does is ultimately it impairs that. And so then, like you mentioned, you can't see. People certainly then have a delayed reaction time when they do see it, and the results are just terrible. But so from a driving standpoint, as unfortunately the people we represent who've been victims of a DUI, you can do things to make yourself safe. So obviously wear your seatbelt. I had a case very recently where a mother was struck at a very insanely high rate of speed, triple digits, and her child thankfully was safely secured in a car seat that was installed properly, and the child walked away without a scratch. And because our client was wearing her seatbelt, she avoided what could have been a catastrophic result. But I mean, you can take simple steps like that, then constantly check your surroundings, drive defensively, see who's around. And that's not to say that it's the victim's fault at all, because a drunk driver can be upon you in no time. But the thing is we have to be aware of our surroundings and do try to take steps to make sure that we can avoid impacts when we can.
Yeah, one of the things my dad always said that stuck with me, and I've probably said it with you in here before, you can be right, but you can be dead right. Yeah. And if some of this stuff seems so elementary, but if you don't take care of it, that could be the one time where somebody that's driving under the influence of something, slams into you, and you want to take as many precautions as possible. And also, so whenever something like this happens, of course I want the judge to throw the book at him. I want whatever time in jail or whatever the punishment should be. Generally, I think it should be levied to the full extent of the law. But also, let's talk about the civil component of this. And so many of the clients you've represented who have been in accidents like this are able to, whether it's damages or what it may be, get some of that back through civil trial.
Yeah, so there are two different forms of our system of justice. The criminal aspect, that's where the police make an arrest, and then prosecutors prosecute the criminals, and then that is separate from what we do on the civil side, where then there is a cause of action where what's called a tort has been committed, where somebody does something wrong to someone else. Here, somebody drinks and drives, causes an injury, then there is that's what our civil justice system handles. Mm-hmm. And so then that's where we come in and pursue the case to make sure that the client is adequately compensated, but also to make sure that the bad actor doesn't do this again. And it also acts as a deterrent in society to make sure that others know this isn't okay in our backyard.
Talking with Brian Comer with Tobias and Comer Law for Law 251. And let's talk about that also. So let's say I get out there. For some reason, I'm driving around at night, even though I should be up at 4 a.m. in the morning. But somebody slams into me, okay? I'm following the law, full extent of the law, and they are not. And I get out of my vehicle and something seems off. Or let's not even say that. What should be my process? Because it's almost like two separate investigations, right? You've got the law, and then you've got civil, and coming to you guys for that. So lead off from there. Let's say I get into this accident. What should be my next move if I have a feeling the person's inebriated or whatever it may be after I call 911?
Sure. So, I mean, the first thing, obviously, is to make sure you stay safe. And I know that Senior Trooper Peoples talks about that. You want to make sure if you've been involved in a wreck that you're, not then going to get hit by another vehicle while you're, stopped because of this wreck. But make sure you and your family are safe. You check on the other driver and you say, they seem impaired, make a note of that, okay? And just talk to the officer about that. Let them do their work. But then from there, if you need medical attention, go get that medical attention, or God forbid, if your family does, make sure that happens. But then after all of that has happened, you do want to make sure that you pick up the phone and call just to make sure that evidence is properly collected. A lot of this stuff it can be time sensitive, and so it's important that an investigation happens so that evidence isn't lost, like all sorts of things that can be collected from a wreck.
Yeah, and with some of this new tech in these vehicles, you can get, you can get data points, and you're able to pull a lot of this stuff off and see many times exactly what was going on in these vehicles prior to.
Yeah, that's right. Most vehicles are equipped with something called an event data recorder, and that logs these data points: speed, was somebody wearing their seatbelt, was somebody hitting the brakes, what all was happening, relative to the car moving in space. And so it's important to get that information before that vehicle's sold for salvage by the insurance company, or that data is otherwise lost. And so that's why it's important just to make sure that all the data is collected, and then you worry about healing up. Let us handle the investigation side and what avenues need to be pursued on the civil side. But then you can focus on getting better and healing and getting through the process.
Well, that's one thing I know with you and Desi and the entire crew at Tobias and Comer. You truly care about your clients. You care about the people around here, and that's evident over the years. People can see that. If this has happened to someone, or if they feel they may have some other personal injury case, they can call for a free consultation at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. Our number is 251-432-5001, or you can find us on the web at tobiascomerlaw.com. Always the consultation's free, and we're always happy to talk.
Yeah, and I'll say it again, but you have this, you have top 5 things to know about DUI accidents. You have plenty of other great news items and information up there at tobiascomerlaw.com. I really appreciate you coming in for another Law 251 here, and Brian, hope you have a great day.
All right, thanks, Dalton. Appreciate you having me.
All right, Brian Comer with Tobias and Comer Law and Law 251. Again, check that out, tobiascomerlaw.com. And that does it for Mobile Mornings. Coming up next, the Jeff Poor Show right here on FM Talk 106.5.